China is the world's second largest economy and has the world's largest population, with massive influence both globally and within the APAC region. For over 3 years, Out and Equal has been working with partners in China. Our annual Shanghai Forum and other events support the business case for LGBTQ inclusion while also exploring the need to anchor LGBTQ inclusion within other DEI efforts. It's our pleasure to welcome our panelists to give greater depth and insights as to how belonging and inclusion are supported in their workplaces. Thank you all for being here.
Welcome to today's session. So LGBTQ workplace inclusion is evolving in key Chinese markets. Having gone from novelty to an increasingly recognized norm across sectors, both local leaders and multinational corporation entities have hit their stride in terms of building out a unique business case for inclusion that resonates in the Chinese business climate. Over the past years, Out and Equal has gathered some emerging topics and questions based on all the virtual conversations they've had with friends and partners in China. And now we've brought them all to a culmination point here at Summit to address during this session. In this premier session, we are delighted to have Jenny and Alexis here with us. Jenny and Alexis works in the Chinese market and have been proactively promoting LGBTQ plus workplace inclusion. We will have them together to discuss about successful strategies for LGBTQ market inclusion, employee experiences, and how cultures of belonging are created by thinking globally and impacting locally. Let's start with the self-introduction. I'll first briefly introduce myself. My name is Jimmy. I work for IBM. My daily job is patent attorney, and I have another role leading the LGBTQ employees resource group in IBM China. And now, why you introduce yourself, Jenny?
Thank you very much, Jimmy. I'm Jenny Ni. I'm an HR actually. I've worked for HR function for more than 25 years. I'm very passionate on creating or building up the inclusive and diversity environment for the company. So this is why in the past several years, I'm very passionate to work with our ERG employee resources group to promoting the inclusive diversity culture. This is my third time to join the Out and Equal conference, the summit. Hopefully today, Jimmy, together with Alexis, we can have a good discussion on that.
Hi everyone, my name is Alexis, and I'm currently a learning and development manager and trainer in Nielsen, China, based in Shanghai. Previously, I was in their consulting unit for 2 years. I also have another really identity in Nielsen, which is the current chair of a team named Inclusion Impact Team of China region. And I oversee Nielsen's overall D&I program, including ERG and CSR. So just a few things. In 2019, I launched Pride ERG to China, as well as equalize all of the same-sex related benefits, including health insurance, relocation support, and visa support, and adoption leave, etc., to the associates here in the China offices. And outside of Nielsen, I also am a part of the Shanghai Pride team and the Global Shapers community. I was originally from Taipei, but stayed many of my formative years in Hong Kong and Shanghai, and identify as a queer woman, cis woman. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. So actually, Jenny and Alexis and I were actually got connected through Out and Equal. So I was once at the Out Equal Summit in Dallas, and then when Out Equal decided to come to the China market, so we Out Equal has actually organized several events in China, and I got to know Jenny from one of the events. We were both the speaker, and then the next year I got to know Alexis. So I'll first introduce my personal experience with Out and Equal. the one I still remember when I was in Dallas for the summit. I see so many people there, and you know, of course, from our community discussing how we are tackling all the difficulties and problems facing in the workplace, and which is really inspiring. And also, it's kind of like a really fantastic. It was a really fantastic experience for me, and ever since that, there seems like a lot of things we can do in China. So when I come back and got the opportunity to know more people, to connect with more people, and it actually really inspired me. So why, Jenny and Alexis, why you guys talk about like your experience with Untitled, and what does Untitled mean to you?
Okay, probably I go first. So firstly, I really appreciate Untitled decided to set up the China Summit. I think this is really the progressing steps, to building up the inclusion and the diversity environment overall in China. So as you mentioned, we met in the Untitled event 3 years before, right? I was totally inspired by the speakers and also the panelists sharing their story and to share their perspective on building up the inclusive and diversity. And for me, this is really critical important actually for the working environment to have the equal environment and inclusive environment. Because for me, diversity is the facts. It's the who we are, whatever you comes from, your background, your sexual orientation or gender identification or whatever. But I is really talking about what kind of action you choose to do, right? So it's totally important, we can create this kind of a psychologically safety environment for the workplace. Employee actually, they can feel to be involved, to participate, to be valued, to be, appreciated. Then they can have their full energy to the workplace, which can help themselves to excel and also help the organization to excel. So that's why, I truly believe inclusion and diversity is such important. And, it is very important. We know that. And also we contributed this kind of idea to the community and overall building up this kind of inclusive environment. So this is why, every year I still come back for the Untitled Summit. Hopefully can communicate and interact with the others to learn from best practice from others to see how we can together building up the inclusive environment for the community. Yeah.
Thank you, Jenny. That was really inspiring, and I do love when you're talking about like you do believe in diversity, and diversity is the fact. This is really something people need to learn. And now, Alexis, why not you say something about your experience with Untitled?
So the first time I attended Untitled was the first forum that co-organized with Shanghai Pride. And actually in that year, it was our first year to work with Shanghai Pride as well. And in Nielsen, we brought 25 volunteers to support that event. And we were all so inspired to see just such dedication and professionalism in that forum. So to me, Untitled is a teacher, is an ally, but it also is a safe space. And I think the Pride Party for people like myself who's doing inclusion work, especially in the corners where it's more of an emerging place. So it's really important for me to kind of power charge and such a great platform and in this community and continue my learning and sharing with all the people from different corners of the world. So it's my power engine and my Pride Party at work.
I love that. I love the a safe place together with the party world for us. So I'll move to our first section of tonight, and regarding one of the themes of today's conversation, think global, impact local, how can companies use their idea to localize global policies to the context in China? And what are some tips you may have? What roles should multinationals, global HQ can play? And what roles should the leaders in China can play?
Yeah, I believe, for example, in our company, we used to have the ERG, it's called the GLAD, it's for LGBTQ, okay. When about 10 or 11 years before, when Global started to have the conversation with the local to see whether you can set up the GLAD ERG, at the time, I think overall society environment is not really mature like now, okay. So we have a much concern how we can start up for that. But with the kind of the overall society progressing, and also I believe this is a leader's determination, we decided to set up the ERG locally, because this is very important for building up the, as I mentioned, inclusive environment, get everybody involved, and also give the highlight the message to say we really respect about diversity. So this is why the ERG for LGBTQ has been set up locally. Okay, so talking about the roles HQ, how headquarter play, and also how the local play, I believe there are some of the tips probably can share with everyone. Firstly, Global have a very good setup principle. We have the website on that to let everybody to have the knowledge and the principle to understand what is ERG is about. And also, we used to have the global summit, the global R&D week, the parties, to get global people together to talking about that, to discuss, to have the story sharing, to get a better understanding on what is the R&D inclusion and diversity means, and how we can start activities locally. Okay, so this is the really the first start at. Then I think it's very important for people to get knowledge and to learn from that. So some of the training materials could be shared, and also some of the forums, these kind of things, resources are shared by the corporate or headquarter. Actually, it will be very helpful for us to learn from that. Okay, and the next is about the leaders' commitment on that. For us, the senior leader, the executive team, actually, they take the lead to chair the ERGs, and also the local, inspire the local leaders to participate in ERG as well. Leaders walk the talk, and also their commitment for that is definitely one of the example for employees to understand this is very important for us. And next, I think is about some scorecard. Probably is sometimes is helpful, especially when we just started to how to do that. What is the measurement? What is the value on that? What is the employee's reaction on that? So sometimes the scorecard is also played a critical roles. Okay. So Global have launched some like employee survey. R&D score card is one of the very important part of that, and also we have some benchmarking with the external world to understand where we are on the diversity and inclusion index. Okay, so this product can help people to build up the awareness as well. And with this kind of all the global initiatives locally, we also have our own R&D forums, R&D day, R&D activities to help the people to build awareness. So it's locally aligned with global, but we have the flexibility or authority to have the local, suitable for local situations activities. Okay, sometimes people is not really inclusive because do not have the knowledge. So once people have the more knowledge, they will be more inclusive. Okay, and the last but not least, I think is the policy. We to promote this kind of concept also, we create a kind of the insurance or the policy actually is helping the people in the different situation can be involved. this kind of things is also enable, this kind of inclusive policy to be implemented and rolled out locally. Okay, yeah. So this is some of the experience. So Alexis, probably over to you.
Sure. Yeah, I think looking at the question, think global and impact local. I think most of the companies who should be present in the seminar shouldn't have any problems of thinking thinking globally, I'm sorry. I think most of us are pretty advanced, and that's why we're here. I think, but the $1 million question in, for example, the context of China is how do you do the second part, which is impact local. So I think I have 3 tips for everybody who are in similar position that I'm in, where I was around 1.5 years ago. And these are from my personal experiences, what have proven to work for me. So the first one is diversity in the D&I champions and leadership team. So what I meant by that is to include a good mix of experienced expat managers who mostly have been in more of these advanced markets where all these policies are more mature and in place, and who can bring these best practices and also networks and experiences to here, and also local Chinese leaders to work together. I think this is very, very important because in our experience, D&I in this very baby kind of initial stage, it was mostly driven by the expat managers, but rather than the local leaders, because of their more advanced kind of level of experiences and just kind of awareness surrounding that. So I think it's necessary to have a good mix, so you have a good exchange and you guys can borrow the best practices, but also understand the local context very well. So I think this is really, really key. My second tip would be to really ensure good quality local communication efforts. So what I meant by that is a lot of the global campaigns that failed or didn't turn out to be so popular, I think in our office before, we kind of look into them and realize that the translation was very impersonal. It was kind of like this machine translated, kind of very dry, direct translation that were not engaging to local audience. So in our experience, really improving that translation so that it can deliver what you want to say spiritually and leveraging these local examples and languages really help to improve and set you up for success. The third one regarding local impact would be, I think, reaching out to local partnerships here. So by that, I mean local NGOs or organization or any groups that you know would understand the situations here or could connect you with the representatives here. I think that were really helpful to us. For example, when we connected with Shanghai Pride or Out and Equal, well, I was immediately sort of connected to a group of really active D&I champions here. I was able to download the knowledge and toolkits available really, really quickly. So I think to extend that local impact, you want to definitely get into the local D&I community as soon as possible and build your allies locally. So those 3 tips are the first few that I would give to anyone who would like to get it started.
Well, that's really precious sharings. I'll share personally with my experience with our localized strategies. In the first few years, we were kind of thrived to kind of like using a lot of scorecards to trying to push all the different projects to go forward. And then because it turns out like with the years go by, and it seems like the basic, like the raising the awareness of the LGBTQ community, the LGBTQ knowledge and DN knowledge is never getting old. So we kind of like shifting our strategy from kind of like pushing it forward, and then back to the basics. So we use in the past we decided to do this because really the local settings sometimes a lot of people just really lack the related knowledge. That's why we decided to do it over and over again. So when thinking globally and acting impact locally, because like a lot of MNCs have a lot of practices, best practice in a lot of different jurisdictions, in a lot of different culture backgrounds. And then when coming to a local, you really need to think of the what we are now in the process, in the DNA process. So we need to better shifting, tailor our strategy into the local settings. Okay, let's move to the next question. Do you guys have any examples of working with folks at headquarters to help those who are not here to see through your lens? And Alex, I think you can start from you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So I have one example to share. I think my first case of like persuasion, I think that I needed to do was, for example, last year we launched a very good training named the Unconscious Bias Training, and there's quite a comprehensive toolkit that came with it. In the beginning, I think it was by default that every market would get the English version, and they think that should be adequate for every market. So in that conversation, I quite insisted that we must invest in the professional translation work for both the deck that's being used in these trainings, as well as the toolkits. And I think that kind of request was something that I sort of need to correct that, the headquarter representatives and let them understand how, for example, there are a lot of Chinese speakers who may not feel as open to learn about these new concepts, especially surrounding some of these more vulnerable experiences in a foreign language. So in order to create that safe space, you want to provide them with as much safety as possible using the language that they feel the most comfortable with. So I think that was an example that I had, which, they eventually, really agree with my point of view and understand that that's what China needed, and gave their unique support to us.
Jenny, you can
Yeah,
share some of the experiences.
Firstly, I fully aligned with echo, Alex's sister story comments. We have a similar experience as well. But I like to share one of the story many years before, but probably it's quite impressive, for me. I remember many years before my company, like to launch a branding campaign. Okay, the branding campaign. The branding itself, actually, I think it's well designed. The wording, the concept, the theme is fantastic. However, one of the ways to really promoting that is to emphasize the individual's contribution. Okay, then the format to do that is to highlight employees' pictures. Okay, just means individual, everybody is really important for the company. Okay, but however, the picture itself actually is with the black frame outside. Okay, so I was very interesting. I was invited to participate the preparation meeting for the launch campaign. Okay, then when I was in the meeting, I suddenly saw the picture, the image. Gosh, it's the picture with the black frame outside. I don't know whether the people from Western countries really realize on that. For China, at least, and some of the country for Asia Pacific, if you put the people's picture outside with the black frame, that means the people die. Right, Jimmy? You can understand all that, right?
Yeah.
So, I said, gosh, so I raised the hand to say, hang on, there's some problem. If you put the black frame outside of pictures, that means the people die. The global leaders is shocked, but I think they listened, they heard. So they immediately decide to say, hang on, especially the launch progressing for China need to be slowed down immediately. So after the meeting, we have the long discussion to clarify what kind of a situation. Then they finally decided to change the image, especially for launch for China and some of the country in Asia Pacific. So the overall launch time for China and some of the country in Asia Pacific is later than other country in the world. Okay, so this story is, although many years passed, I still remember on that, because this is some of the culture difference, culture crash. It's really different. But however, so whether the global leader is inclusive enough, can listen about the different situation in the other side of the world. Okay, then we can think about some very different approach to promoting on that. But the same lessons for ourselves for locally is, I summarize that as 2 words. One is understand, the other is to be understood. So as China part is the global world, how we can understand a kind of the our headquarters or other countries, what they are thinking about, what's their facts, to understand. But the other side, we need to let the people know who we are, to be understood, let them to understand us. I think this kind of two-way communication can really help to build up the inclusive environment, and everybody's voice will be heard, and everybody's, kind of the situation will be respected. Yeah.
Right. So I think it just brought me to one of your first question, your 1B question. What roles should the headquarters play, and what role should the Chinese leaders in the subsidiary play? And I was thinking about metaphor of like, I think what kind of relationship could be expressing that. And I think if the headquarters is like a mothership, then and then the branch companies are like the little carriers, right? But the mom needs to be a cool mom. I'm not quoting Mean Girls, or maybe I am. So a cool mom, by that I mean someone who listens and allow autonomy in a healthy way, and understand that there may be cross-generational, cross-cultural differences, and that is natural. Yeah. So I think just the understanding of, and what might come and what might be present, right, in these relationships across continents and across culture, I think it's what foster a really healthy kind of relationship when you have the headquarter being the main decision maker, but the execution happening in quite a different cultural context. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually quite important. Yeah. I personally have a personal story about the when we are discussing the when we are localizing the eco-benefit policy, trying to adopt it in the Chinese market. I remember when they designed the leave policies, and it was really a funny story. I can say it's funny because when they designed the leave stores, the marriage leave vacations, they give the opposite couple, like like in China in different cities, they have the late marriage, marriage leave for late marriages. Yeah. And different cities have different regulations. Like in Beijing, if you marry after a certain age, you can have at least like around 10 consistent calendar days for, if I remember it correct, 10 consistent calendar days for marriage leave. So when designing the eco benefit in regard of the annual leave policy, because opposite couple, they can provide the marriage certificate. For same-sex couple, we cannot. And also it's really impractical for us to fly somewhere to get a marriage certificate before you even apply for the annual leave, or even after the vacation. So considering the situation here, so the company designed a strategy, we only need to sign the affiliate form. I had a discussion with several other different companies. They're talking about how you can prove that you are a couple, and also what if you change your the other half frequently. So we discussed all these kind of situation, and we decided to come. In the end, we come up with the idea. So why not just remove all the restrictions? So since same-sex couple, you cannot provide this kind of certificate, or it's impractical for you to provide the marriage certificate. So why not just remove the same requirement for opposite couple? So we make everything so simple. We totally based on trust. You just need to claim that you are going to be on a marriage travel, or something like that. That just you need to apply for the marriage leave. So this is something really kind of like by discussing the eco benefits, kind of like we make the other way around, make the other part much easier. And this is actually something we talk with the headquarters, with the just kind of like echo Alex's comment. So they gave us a lot of freedom to design the same within the same concept, as long as it's equal. And it's the same. And when this year, when reviewing the policy, and we make sure that since we all no matter same-sex couple or opposite couple, we do not need to submit the certificate. We need to make sure that the manager approval is on the same level. It doesn't need to be like a special approval for same-sex couple. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's move to the next question. So what are some ways to start the conversation about LGBTQ workplace inclusion among colleagues that may be less familiar or less inclined to want to have those conversations? Jenny, why start with you? When I start with you.
Okay. This is not easy, as you mentioned. I just mentioned 10 years before. It's very hard, but now seems to, overall society is progressing well. So to give us a very good foundation to start on that. But still, I think a majority of people is not really have the knowledge on that. So provide the knowledge, education to the people to build up the awareness. I think it's really important. So this is why when we build up the ERG, so first activities when we gather together with the ally for LGBTQ, we just thinking about how we can provide more education to the employees. So we have set up the R&D day, and during the R&D day have the we have the roadshow for each ERG, especially for LGBTQ. We put the kind of the knowledge on that, standees, put on what it is, and also have the rainbow cake, rainbow balloon, and some of the quiz for the people to do that, to build up the basic awareness. So this is the first step. So people actually, when they have whatever, they have curiosity or what kind of the people, they like to be the ally, but they don't know how to do that, they get a basic knowledge. And the second step, we invite some experts to come in, to share their knowledge on LGBTQ society. And also, it's not only for that, we also provide the kind of a forum for the employees and leaders, talking about how, it's a building up the, psychological safety environment is important for every employees, from the well-being, from the, overall mindset, how we can do that, treat everybody equally, let everybody have the equal, career development opportunity, and also they feel so safe to speak out to, get their career progressing. And recently, actually, during the months, we have the rainbow flag race ceremony, and also, encourage the people to take the pictures, have the story sharing, this kind of activities to really, to enhance this kind of the understanding about LGBTQ. So, GLAD, the GLAD is for ERG, especially for LGBTQ, actually is one of the biggest or active ERG in the company. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to hear. Alexis, why not you share some of the practices you adopted?
Sure. Yeah, I do have a few tips. I think the first one was just rainbows everywhere. So, for example, this is our flag and this is our door badge. We made stickers for those. So literally what I did, which I thought was very effective, is to put 200 flags across our offices here. We have 5 offices, and I distributed them, the first batch through a CLT meeting, so the China leadership meeting, when all the business leaders come to Shanghai for, one day kind of seminar. And I went there and told them that it would really mean a lot to show this at their offices. So that was the first wave. And then later on, through these different campaigns and during Pride Month, we made a lot of these really cute flags and really claimed space. And it really worked so well because it started so many conversations because people love them. Even if people don't understand that's uniquely to LGBTQ, people just love the visual kind of this vibrant atmosphere that it brings to our office. And people ask me, oh, what is this for? Where can I get one? And then it just opens up all these conversations like, oh yeah, this is actually, made by our ERG. Did you know that we launched this year? Have you noticed there are only 6 colors, because Gilbert Baker, the designer, they had a certain philosophy. It really brought a lot of conversations, towards us because it's so present. And something I'm really happy to share is also when I met a few new hires, they've told me that, oh my gosh, why is it so queer in your office here? This is amazing. So that also just instantly signals safe space for people who need it. So another tip that I also made tons of stickers for different purposes. Another tip that I have for this would be coming out. I came out at work at a conference when I was invited as a speaker to speak to all the fresh graduates. And then I told them about me attending the Work for LGBTQ recruitment fair in 2017. And my experience of meeting the Nielsen senior manager. And no one understood what LGBT was. So then the panelists actually asked me, can you explain? So I spelled it out for them. So I came out so publicly. That definitely started a lot of conversation. I got a lot of encouragement on hangouts and stuff. People were like, good for you. So that definitely worked, coming out. So being visible, if you are one of the community members. And I also think onboarding is a really good time to speak about that, because before I was serving a commercial role, and now I'm doing the L&D, so learning and development role. I'm redesigning the onboarding program for my company, and I realized during onboarding it's such a good time to communicate with people about diversity and inclusion, because they are ready to listen. They want to know how you work. They want to know your standards. They also want to know the taboos. So about compliance. So it's a really good time to talk to them, to say that, look, Nielsen, this is how we do it. We really respect everybody and we mean it. Look at all the things we have done. It's really more than a CSR charity program. This is embedded in everything that we do. And we hope you can be a part of this to maintain the safe space for everybody. And in case you need it, here are the resources. So I think that was really the best time to talk about it. And I often recruit a lot of new members through onboarding, because for people who need it or are interested, that also is kind of like their, this time, it's kind of like when you're firstly, you know, walking into a campus when you're back in college, and you want to join all these clubs. So I really think onboarding is a critical time if you want to promote D&I program and start conversations. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, Jimmy, by listening about Alex's comments, probably I have done another two additional thoughts on that. Firstly, I think it's very important, like, you know, for us to join this kind of Out and Eco summit, right? And some other external events, you know, at least for myself, you know, when I was invited to join as a speaker or panelist or you know, just a purely or listen, you know, it's really helped me to get a better understanding on that. So when I get a better understanding, I will share with the friends or, you know, colleagues around me, right? You know, this kind of influence one by one, you know, generally it will be have the more impact to the overall society. I think this is the first one. Another one is Alex is talking about the college students, etc. I fully, you know, you know, suggest that actually the young people, actually, they are more open or more inclusive about the current education or kind of the open environment. So they could be the first highlight, you know. So this is why for the ERG was set up to recruit quite some of the young people post the 90 or 95 actually, really active to, you know, to participate in activity. They will lead kind of the fun activities. They will be the very important active member for promoting this kind of culture. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I love all those ideas, but to me, so I like to add two comments. One is like just as I'll echo Alexis. So using a creative way to actually to get attention. For me, after taking this role, I always carry a bag, a backpack, a small backpack, a really colorful one, and I have all the badges I got from all kinds of events, like from Out and Eco, the plain Out and Eco badge, and also sorry, a pin, and also a rainbow Out and Eco pin, IBM colorful rainbow color pin, and all these kind of pins put on my bag. And I also specifically purchased a pin that I'm gay. I carry it all the time to the office, because people now, a lot of people know that I'm leading this role, but there is one researcher. We've been working together for like more than 5 years, and my name has been always on the newsletter sending out for the Pride Month. But someday he suddenly mentioned to me that, do you have a girlfriend? Do you want me to set a blind date for you? I said, well, did you see that email every year sent during the Pride Month? Yes, I know, but I thought you were purely doing volunteer job. So even that, even I've been doing the job for like more than 5 years. He's been working with me for more than 5 years. It's still like the pre-assumption that I'm straight. So that's why I start from then. After talking with him, I always carry that backpack to just let our community visible to others. So it's another way to actually start a conversation, especially for the LGBT members. I remember once when people, one of my coworkers saw that I'm carrying the bag, she asked, "Oh, your bag, all the pins are so kind of like what's that word? Charismatic," and then he asked, "Oh, what?" She definitely saw the gay, and she asked all the different pins, all the different pins. Where did I get it? And all this kind of. It's a really good way to start the conversation. even sometimes for people sort of like a reluctant to do so, because they need to know that we exist. So that's a really a good way. I'm really talking from my really personal perspective. So let's move to our last question. So another important piece of the puzzle is creating cultures of belonging in the workplace. So what does belonging mean in the Chinese business context, and how it can be achieved? And Alexis, you want to start with the question?
So for the Chinese, belonging is directly translated as 归属感. And a few words that came to my mind, I think in association with 归属感 would be harmony. I think harmony is something that is often talked about here. Home, team, and a shared pride. I think I think some of these concepts will be quite close to I think how people will be closely kind of interpreting them. But at the same time, when I really look into this, is it actually different than the other places though? I think a sense of belonging is, it's in fact a universal value. And I think really, it sounds cheesy, but in truth, we are much more similar than we are different. So I truly think belonging would mean universally quite the same. But how could it be achieved? I think in the Chinese business context, you know, we would have slightly different answers when we come to executing and expressing them. So I would like to answer to the question, how can you achieve belonging? And I would like to especially call out the ERG programs for how much we have benefited from that in fostering the sense of belonging in my company. So ERG, if you haven't heard about this term, it's called Employee Resource Group. And you can think of them as affinity groups that are for different interest groups. For example, you have Pride. In my company, there's Pride for the LGBTQ inclusion, ADAPT for differently able population, and a WIN, Women in Nielsen, Mosaic for culturally diverse groups, and in states even more, you know, for Asian Americans, Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, etc., and also veterans. And I think all these different affinity groups really help to foster belonging, because you not only bring people who understand one another and share these experiences together, and they can come together and use the company's resources and create a bigger voice, but you also, most importantly, bring allies to those groups, so then they could really find the emotional support and find people who stand by them in a really meaningful way, and they can always create this emotional space to help one another. So I think ERG has been a very, very good, effective measure and program, at least for my company, and I believe for many other companies, to create belonging. And I think when I want to share something in my communication about the concept of belonging and inclusion to my coworkers here. It's a very visual concept I'd like to share with you, is that in my D&I trainings and introduction to folks here, I use Chinese Hotpot as a visual symbol of belonging. And I think that was an example that truly could engage people and make them understand what I was trying to say. So what I meant by Chinese Hotpot is that, you know, we're all, let's say diversity is all these different food ingredients on the table. You have the meat and the mushrooms and different vegetables. You come from different soil, you have different nutritions and different flavors. But inclusion happens in that hot pot when everything melts together, and the soup is like the culture that gives everything flavor, but it takes the best parts from all these different food ingredients, and that's where the magic happens, and we all belong to that hot pot. So I would use examples like that to communicate on these concepts, you know, and something that could really bring up like positive emotional experience and associations to the Chinese speakers here. Yeah, and I think how can it be achieved? You know, I think the answer we have sort of laid them out in our previous answers. So, yeah.
I really love the description of the Hotpot. I think a lot of Chinese have a strong feelings for the Chinese Hotpot. Like everything put there, if you didn't taste it together, and it just really separate flavor. And then when you put together, the soup tastes much better than everything else together, everything else separately. And Jenny, do you have comments, questions?
I really like you know, the concept of the hot pot. You know, give me a lot of you know, understanding about the Chinese context for, you know, sense of belonging. I like it. As Alex has said, you know, the sense of belonging, actually probably this is quite a universal concept. You know, from the recent human resources survey report published by Deloitte, actually, a sense of belonging becomes one of the most, I think, important, you know, concept for the employees for human resources are, you know, progressing. Because sense of belonging sometimes it's occurred by the different reasons. You know, could be sense of happiness, could be sense of the safety. When people feel safe or people feel happy, you know, then can, you know, generally lead to have the sense of the belonging, right? But how can let people to have the sense of happiness or safety? So it's very important is firstly whether the environment is safe or not. Okay, so you know, it's again come to, especially for I don't know, for Chinese people especially, you know, hope the environment is the safety, they can speak up. Generally to say, you know, a lot of people, if they find people still, you know, have the small talks, they cannot, you know, their comments could be criticized, you know, they cannot speak out, right? So how to build up the psychologically a safe environment, let the people know whatever their identity or whatever they comes from, actually they can speak out. I think this is kind of give them the sense of safety. And second is whether they feel happiness, how they can feel happiness, their ideas being heard, they have been invited for the decision making, they participate in to contribute for the company. So this kind of things, they are, you know, they're being recognized by their you know, contribution, and they be valued. This kind of things all contributed to a sense of happiness. So I think whatever is in China or globally, probably this kind of important elements, but especially for China. You know, if Alex is to use the hot pot example, I would say like the hands, you know, you have the fingers, you know, it's all different. But however, you know, everybody is unique, but they need to work together as the full function of the hands. So yeah, this is my understanding on that.
I love all the creative ways to talk about it. For me, sense of belonging have a lot of meanings. Like actually, basically, Alexis and Jenny have already talked about it. But to me, especially as the gay male in a company, the sense of belonging is actually the importance of the of the sense of belonging got achieved is actually coming from the like every details, every corner of the design of the company structure, like from the ERG, from all the equal opportunity, equal benefit, all the related policies, and also from the whole team together and supporting me, and it's just in every details of the working life, and that's actually something Jenny, you as an HR professional is doing, and Alexis, you as a learning development manager is actually doing. So every part of the corporation, the organization, and everyone can actually contribute to the sense of belonging achievement. Okay, I think thank you both for really amazing answers. I think we do have, I think the audience today will have a lot of insights and a lot of sort of like action plans and also knowledge about the Chinese context, and also it was really a productive session with you guys. Thank you again for being with us, and all the great job you've been doing with promoting the LGBT awareness and inclusion in the workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy and Alexis. Enjoyed talking with you. And thank you, everyone.